Coming up in the news, more COVID-19 deaths reported in the country. Stores opening on Grand Bahama. And the Christian Council leader appeals for compassion. The Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition, starts now.
This is the Bahamas Tonight, Northern Edition.
This is the Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition. Good evening, all. I'm Megan Shepard. Thank you so much for tuning in. Topping news. More bad news coming to the country as COVID-19 has claimed the lives of 2 more Bahamians. This coming from a press conference in the nation's capital that wrapped up just a few moments ago. The Minister of Health, the Honorable Dr. Dwayne Sands, says this brings the total of deaths in the country to 11. But that's not all. The number of COVID cases in the country has also climbed overnight.
There are 2 new COVID-19 cases. A 50-year-old female of New Providence who is in home isolation, and a 29-year-old female of New Providence who is also in home isolation. This brings the country's total number of confirmed cases to 72. 61 from New Providence, 7 from Grand Bahama, 3 from Bimini, and 1 from Cat Key. 15 of the 72 confirmed cases of COVID-19 are healthcare workers. There are 2 new recovered patients for a total now of 14 recovered.
Meanwhile, the Minister of Health says the ministry is preparing to send additional beds to the island to assist in the fight against COVID-19.
By tomorrow morning, 6 COVID-19 beds will be available in Grand Bahama, and within a week to 10 days, a total of 22.
The good news is Grand Bahama has gone 14 days without any new reported cases.
Okay, we just heard a little bit about what happened in New Providence as your hospital was compromised. Here in Grand Bahama, our patients remain in tents and pods at the Samaritan's Purse. My question is, if what happened in Nassau happens here, do we have a contingency plan already in place?
Your team down there, comprised of Dr. Bartlett, Dr. Lockhart, he also has Dr. Pedican, the hospital administrator, and all the medical internists are on full alert with Dr. Hegde, the epidemiologist, monitoring the situation. What we're told, we have an emergency operations center meeting every day with Grand Bahama. They report the findings, and we're assured that they're on top of it. They have the adequate number of swabs. They send up swabs very regularly. They monitor the flow into the emergency room as well as into the community clinics. And right now they have 1 admission who is stable, and they intend to discharge that individual.
3 of the country's confirmed COVID-19 cases are from the island of Bimini. The northern island saw its first COVID-related death a few weeks ago, 57-year-old Kim Johnson-Roll. And now with the announcement of 2 additional cases, residents are not taking the news lightly. Jamila Mizik has more.
2 more COVID-19 cases emerged on the island of Bimini. A 63-year-old female resident and a 78-year-old male resident, both with no recent travel history. Bimini resident and pastor of Born Again Church, Oral Ellis, says it is alarming and they are very much concerned.
What really is more concerning to us is the fact that we just lost Kim Roll, and she had a number of family members that were under quarantine, and to my knowledge, they were released that none of those were tested positive. And now to have another case of a couple that has been diagnosed with this virus is alarming, because this would tell us that this is another isolated case. If we don't get a hold of it, and you just tend to just ignore it or downplay it, it can come up to really haunt us in a big way. And so the concern is that we would find out, by tracing, I guess, where it originated and how it is moving about.
He says for the most part, residents on that northern island are doing a good job at observing protocols put in place.
For me, it is almost now like it is illegal to be outside. And so when I do come out, I'm very cautious. I'm particular as to my purpose. And I do that and I get back in as soon as possible. The streets are somewhat empty. And for the most part, again, as I say, I believe people are complying.
Now, many persons argue that family islands should be placed on less stricter protocols as there are no confirmed cases on those islands and there is no inter-island movement. Pastor Ellis agrees that there can be more relaxed measures on some islands, but he says it is better to comply, especially for the sake of safety.
For instance, in my house with my wife, she has a business in the tourism industry, and I also work from another location in the tourism industry, and both of those were ordered shut down, and so we had not income now for probably the past 5 weeks, and so we are coping with it. It's something that we were not expected. You can feel the pinch from it, but the bottom line is that we want to be safe. And so if it means that we have to do what we are doing or what we are asked to do, then we have to do just that for the sake of safety.
Member of Parliament for West Grand Bahama and Bimini, Pakeisha Parker Edgecombe, issuing a statement to the constituents of West Grand Bahama and Bimini, calling the recent announcement of 2 additional cases of COVID-19 on the island of Bimini alarming. The new cases brings the overall count to 5 persons in the West Grand Bahama and Bimini constituency, inclusive of 1 in Cat Key and 1 in 8 Mile Rock. She notes that 2 persons have already died due to the virus and adds that the community cannot afford to lose another. The parliamentarian says that we are at a critical stage in our fight against this pandemic, and while the number of cases throughout the country has increased in recent days, panic is not an option. She encouraged residents to remain vigilant in their efforts to ensure that their lives and the lives of their loved ones are protected by following the safety guidelines given by medical experts and adhering to instructions given by law enforcement officers. She emphasized the importance of social distancing during this crucial time. Edgecombe adds that, I hereby appeal for all of you to remain indoors as best as possible during the periods identified, and if and when going outdoors, ensure complete protection with necessary gear, including but not limited to face masks. She says that the safety of the community cannot be left to medical officials alone, but rather everyone has to join in as lives are at stake. She further admonished residents to take in the information from official agencies, including the Office of the Prime Minister and the Ministry of Health. The statement concludes with the reiteration of admonishing residents to be their neighbor's keeper by ensuring that everyone fights this pandemic hand in hand, knowing that neighborly love, coupled with God's infinite wisdom and grace, will help to overcome this illness. Now, the nation's leader announcing this past Sunday the reopening of several businesses across the country. These businesses include hardware stores, plant nurseries, auto parts stores, landscape and property maintenance stores. This morning, our ZNS News team took to the streets on Grand Bahama to see if residents were taking advantage of the reopening. Italia Hall has more.
On Thursday morning, the streets were fairly busy on Grand Bahama as residents could be seen shopping for essential items. From Monday, AID has been open to the public but with limited hours. Manager Hazer Watson says they also have a WhatsApp ordering system to limit the amount of people in the store.
We've been closed for about a month and we've seen where the community at large are glad to see our doors open. We do have a nice system going on. All right, we have the proper markings. What we try to do is that on our counter we can hold about 5 persons at the counter, and they're separated about 6 feet, and then 6 feet back they have we have 4 persons behind, a person behind each one of them to the counter, waiting for that person to move, and they move in place, so that it cuts down on some of the lines of people I'm standing out here.
Over at Kelly's, the cars stretched around the store. This contractor says he came to shop for supplies so that he is able to work.
It's very important that the hardware stores be open, and yeah, that's a good step we make. But I think that more stores should open because right now it's a little rough and people need to work.
Home Fabrics is also open for business and are allowing 2 customers in at a time. Resident Donvaria Duncombe says she's shopping for fabric as she's making masks at home.
I am elated and thank you very much, Honorable Dr. Hubert Menes. I wanted to personally thank you because as a seamstress, it has really created a boost for me in sales especially. And 2, I like the generation of, income for us within the economy.
And over at the Lakayan Nursery, lots of residents could be seen waiting in line to purchase plants. Manager Gabriela Donato says they were open for Monday.
We had a great crowd when we opened our doors. There were so many people here interested in getting soil and fertilizer and plant seeds to start their own home gardens. We've got people lined up outside and taking only customers 1 or 2 at a time. It's important for us to keep our distancing so that our rates stay low.
Now business owners are asked to ensure that employees wear masks at all times and should deny entry to customers who are not wearing masks. It's Halia Hall, ZNS Network News.
The nation's leader recently calling for compassion from Bahamian-owned businesses as it relates to the firing of their employees during this time. While many can agree that the COVID-19 pandemic is causing a financial burden for all, tonight, the president of the Grand Bahama Christian Council shares his thoughts on the call for compassion. President of the Grand Bahama Christian Council, Reverend Dr. Robert Lockhart, acknowledging the call from the Prime Minister as it relates to businesses firing their employees during this time. Reverend Lockhart says that he understands the plea of the Prime Minister and agrees that if businesses are in the position financially, they should not be in such a haste to let go of employees. He further adds that he also understands the challenges of businesses that are not making money at this time.
I know some businesses may take this as an opportunity to downsize persons that they may have wanted to let go before, that they have not been able to under the normal circumstances. They see this as an opportunity to downsize and sort of rebuild in the employee area. But I think we like to encourage businesses as much as they can to keep people on. But at the same time, I must say we also understand that there's a burden on businesses. Not every business can afford to do that. And salaries is usually the highest expense of most businesses, and so if no business is coming in, there's some businesses that are really capital based, meaning that if there's no business taking place, they really have no means of continuing to pay their employees.
He says that if a business can bounce back following this pandemic, then he believes they should compromise with the employees during this time.
Maybe businesses can consider even if they have to let their employees go, but not totally, not lay them off or fire them, but actually just let them go home, give them what they can afford to give them, even if they give them something, and let them know as soon as business is back up and running, we'll have you back. At least that gives people a sense of security that I still have a job, that if you just let persons go and when this COVID-19 situation is finished, they feel like, hey, I'm not even going to have a job.
Now, another concern for many Bahamians have been the issue of meeting rental payments. Reverend Lockhart says that during this time, he believes that tenants and landlords should come to a mutual agreement that will benefit both parties.
And I think government is making an effort, and I guess whatever they need to assist businesses. If government is going to ask persons to keep persons employed, I think they're going to need to continue to provide businesses with the assistance that they need. And then also, I think the same thing's going to come with rental owners. Now, the thing is, some rental owners have mortgages also. I think the banks have been at some leniency. They have postponed loans and mortgages for next, I think, a couple of months also, and they'll be passed over this. At least what I've heard so far, at least until June, the end of June. And so I think landlords can sort of pass on that. But at the same time, tenants have to realize that even though the mortgage, the banks and the mortgage corporation will give you an extended time, you're still going to have to pay that money. It's not that they're not allowing you to they're giving you that month free. So I think what landlords can do is try to work out something with their tenants that, hey, even after it's finished, how we can still recoup the months that you weren't able to pay. And I think, it looks for everybody to be working together.
Overall, the Christian Council leader says that compassion for each other must prevail.
So I think it's just time for us to be brotherly, or sisterly, neighborly to one another right now, and doing all that we can to help each other and giving each other at least some level of security for when all of this is over.
The Grand Bahama Port Authority delivering 2 new medical X-ray machines to the Grand Bahama Health Services to aid in the fight against COVID-19 on Grand Bahama. The GBPA previously announced procurement of the machines to support the Grand Bahama Health Services frontline medical team. This critical diagnostic equipment is now on island, and they were delivered yesterday morning to the Cancer Association of Grand Bahama facility. President of the Grand Bahama Port Authority, Ian Roll, says the donation made through the GBPA's charitable organization, the Grand Bahama Disaster Relief Foundation, augments essential medical tools needed to deliver vital healthcare services here on Grand Bahama. X-ray technology is critical to diagnosing and treating a myriad of illnesses and conditions, including COVID-19. He says residents will benefit from the addition of the 2 X-ray machines throughout the current pandemic and well beyond, as the machines will remain on the island for future service. Acting chairman of the GBPA, Sarah St. George, says the pandemic continues to impact individuals, families, and communities across the country. And the GBPA urges all residents of Grand Bahama to adhere to the government's emergency orders. The GBPA reminds residents to stay informed through the government's COVID-19 website, as well as its own website and social media pages. In other news, police need your assistance in locating 3 suspects in the South, Western, and Central divisions. The first suspect is 22-year-old LeVar LaRota of Amberjack Street. He is 6 feet tall, 190 pounds, slim build with light brown complexion. He is wanted for housebreaking and stealing. The second suspect is 24-year-old Andreo Smith of Gambia Drive. He is also wanted by the Southwestern Division for housebreaking and stealing. He is described as standing at 5 feet and 9 inches tall, 190 pounds, medium brown complexion, and slim build. The third suspect is 40-year-old Steve Charles of Lewis Yard. He is wanted by the Central Division for shop breaking and stealing. He is 5 feet 7 inches tall, 150 pounds, dark brown complexion, and slim build. Now, if you know the whereabouts of any of these suspects, contact the Southern Division at 373-1112, Central Division at 350-3138, 350-3106 through 12, 911, 919, or call your nearest police station. And coming up, hundreds taking advantage of the Reach Out Youth Organization's giveaway. Those details straight ahead.